Hello, good day everyone, and today I will report about, me and my groupmates will report about cold and cough agents. This is probably yung last na natin na report, so this will be the best shot. So, okay, before we start anything, let us first define our learning objectives. So, una, i-define natin yung mga key terms that pertain sa cough and cold agents. Differentiate between kung ano nga ba ang flu, common sa common cold. I-differentiate din natin yung specific types of cold and cough agents and discuss the mode of action for each specific cough and cold agents. So, yun. So, quick rundown sa mga key terms and definitions natin. First, we have antihistamines. Ito yung mga drugs that reduce effect mediated by histamine. Antihistamine, a chemical released by the body during allergic reaction. Antitussives naman, drugs that suppress cough reflex, yung pag-ubo natin. And then we have common cold. Ano nga bang common cold? A non-bacterial respiratory tract infection generally caused by a viral infection of the epithelial layer of the upper airway and characterized by mild low-grade fever, cough, sneezing, and a runny nose. So quite a mouthful itong definition ng common cold, but in layman's term, ito lang yung mga parang lagnat ganun natin. So common cold nga. And then expectorants, drug that release that increase pala the stimulation of mucus. So ito yung mga drugs na nagpapa-increase ng parang pag-expel ng mga mucus natin. And then flu, non-bacterial infection with rapid onset, including fever, headache, and fatigue. And continuation lang ng ating key terms and definition. We have mucokinesis, the therapeutic movement, kinesis, therapeutic movement of excessive or abnormal secretion from the respiratory tract. Mucolytic expectorant, agents that facilitate removal of mucus by alysing or mucolytic action. Sympathomimetics, we're already familiar with this. Drugs that, yung mga drug na partially or completely na ginagaya yung effect ng sympathetic nervous system natin, like your adrenergics, your norepinephrine, ganun. Last is stimulant expectorants, agents that increase production and presumably the clearance of mucus secretion in the respiratory tract. Okay, so ito, let's get started. So dito, ito yung summary ng drug type. So yung sympathomimetics, ginagamit siya for decongestion. Yung, as we see in this figure, yung adrenergic decongestant or vasoconstrictor. Andyan, parang tinatanggal niya yung excess na mucus secretion sa ating upper airways, nose, ganun. And antihistamine to reduce dry secretions. And antihistamines to reduce dry secretions, very self-explanatory. Expectorant to increase mucus clearance, and antitussives to suppress cough reflex. So, ipinapakita dito yung mga main function ng bawat drug group. Sympathomimetics ay para sa decongestion, antihistamines para pang dry secretion, expectorants ay nagpapalabas ng mucus, tapos antitussives naman ay para sa pagtigil ng pag-uubo natin. Parang quick overview ito ng treatment options natin sa mga common cold and flu. Here we have sympathomimetic adrenergic congestants. Okay, just an intro slide. Here. So, sympathomimetic or yung ating adrenergic congestants are adrenergic agents that act to vasoconstrict and relieve nasal congestion. In cold remedies, sympathomimetics are intended for a decongestant effect which is based on their alpha-stimulating property and resulting vasoconstriction. Ang decongestants ay nagkakos ng vasoconstriction. Yung vasoconstriction, pagpapakipot ng ating mga blood vessels. Vaso means blood vessels, constriction means constrict, parang iniipit. Dahil dito nababawasan ang pagmamaga sa ilong, resulta ito ng madaling pagkahinga. Ang effect na ito ay dahil sa alpha receptor stimulation, ka-effective sila sa sipon. Again, decongestant. In terms of topical applications naman, topical sympathomimetic decongestants, sprays or drops produce results faster than oral applications. So as we see in this table, maraming drug na mas favorable or mas pinili ang topical na route than oral simply because they are more efficient in producing their effects. Okay, I won't mention the drug names kasi baka hirapan ako i-pronounce. Tawanan nyo lang ako. However, repeated use of these agents can cause a vicious cycle of increased secretions and nasal edema as the effect of the agent fades. Yun yung sinasabi natin na rebound congestion. So parang kung nasobrahan ka, magkakaroon ka nitong rebound congestion. So ang topical decongestants ay mga spray o patak sa ilong. -5 ang tumawa. Mas mabilis ang effect nito compared sa oral meds. Pero kapag sobra sa paggamit, just like I said, pwede magkaroon ng rebound congestion. Ibig sabihin, mas lalong lalala ang baradong ilong. Kaya dapat gamitin lang ng tama at hindi abusaduhin, di ba? Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. Life lesson. Ayan. Next is sympathetic application. Systemic application. Ito, unlike the topical or yung oral route natin, specifically sa oral, hindi na siya dumadaan ng first pass effect. So, yung sympathetic application natin, diretso na sa yung systemic application natin, diretso na siya sa systemic circulation. Therefore, hindi na siya parang mano-nerve dun sa may first pass effect natin. So, systemic as compared with topical application has the advantage of giving more extensive decongestant effects involving deeper blood vessels. However, producing nasal vasoconstriction to systemic route can lead to systemic effects of sympathomimetics such as increase in blood pressure and increase sa ating heart rate. So, ang systemic decongestants ay iniinom at mas malawak ang effect. Umaabot sila sa deeper blood vessels pero may side effects tulad ng pag-increase na sa ating BP tsaka heart rate. Kaya kailangan mag-ingat lalo na sa mga may hypertension. Balance dapat ang benefits at risk. Because it can't all be good. There should be balance. And antihistamine agents. Ayan. So, ito naman, itong mga antihistamine agents na to, parang ina-antagonize nila yung mga antagonize. Parang ini-inhibit nila yung ating mga receptors to produce an antihistamine effect. So, ito antihistamine agents. Histamine occurs naturally in the body and is contained in tissue, mast cells, and blood basophils. Ang histamine ay natural na chemical sa katawan. Matatagpuan ito sa mga mast cells at basophils. Ilalabas ito during allergic reaction. Ito ang nagdudulot ng symptoms tulad ng pangangati at pagmamaga yung pag-red natin as we see in allergic reaction -10. Ito ang antihistamines. Effect of histamine muna. So, para maintindihan natin muna kung what we're dealing with antihistamines, ano nga ba yung histamine in the first place? So, histamine is an important mediator of local inflammatory responses causing effects such as smooth muscle contraction, increased capillary permeability, and dilation, itching, and pain. Meron tayong tinatawag na triple response: local redness, welt formation, and reddish white border. Yan, ang histamine na nagdulot ng inflammation. Kasama dito ang redness, swelling, at itching. Tinatawag din itong triple response. Nagkakaroon ng smooth muscle contraction kaya pagkakaroon ng symptom tulad ng sipon at irritation. Kumbaga parang nagre-respond yung katawan natin sa kung ano man yung nagpa-cause sa atin ng irritation, such as yung mga dust, ganun. Diba kunwari pag may alikabok, ganun, nati-trigger yung mga irritant receptors natin, like something like that. Tapos we naturally we trigger a response like sneezing, for example, and here it's no different. So histamine receptors. Histamine produces its inflammatory effect by stimulating specific surface receptors. The 3 histamine receptors are as follows. So meron tayong H1 receptors. Ibig sabihin dun yung kung saan nagbabind yung maaaring ligand natin. And located on the nerve endings and smooth muscles and glandular cells. H1 receptors are involved in inflammation and allergic reaction, producing wheal and flare reactions in the skin, bronchoconstriction, and mucus secretion, nasal congestion, irritation, hypertension, and anaphylaxis. So, ang H1 receptor ay involves sa allergic reaction. Obviously, makikita sila sa nerves at smooth muscles. Kapag na-activate, mga ito nagkakaroon ng bronchoconstriction at mucus production. Nagdudulot din ng nasal congestion. Ito ang main target ng ating antihistamines. Again, ito yung ating main target ng antihistamines natin. So, the 2 other receptors are the H2 receptors na nalolocate sa gastric region. H2 receptors regulate gastric and acid secretion and feedback control of histamine release. H3 receptor located primarily in the central nervous system. H receptors may be autoreceptors for cholinergic neurotransmission in the airway at the autonomic ganglia, involved in CNS functioning and feedback control of histamine synthesis and release. So, just a summary, yung H2 receptor natin nasa stomach, involved sa acid secretion. H3 naman receptor ay nasa brain. Ang role nila sa control ng may role sila sa pagkocontrol ng release ng histamine. Hindi sila main target ng ating cold meds or ng ating antihistamines, pero important pa rin sa overall body function. So, kumbaga parang sa laging inaaway ni antihistamine si H1 receptor. Kasi parang yun yung out of all nagpo-produce ng most parang reaction na kailangan natin ma-reduce in terms of parang pagpapabetterment ng ating situation when we have cold, ganun. Okay. Antihistamine agents naman na tayo. Antihistamines dry secretion through an anticholinergic effect by blockade of, again, yung H1 receptor. So, kung may lalabas sa exam, H1 receptors lagi ang puntirya ng ating antihistamine. They are all first generation agents and can be found all are first generation agents and can be found in cold preparations. Second generation antihistamines, which are longer acting and non-sedating. Ang histamines ay nagbe-block ng H1 receptor. We know that, we emphasize that. May anticholinergic effort din sila, kaya nakaka-dry ng secretion. May first generation na nakakaantok and may second generation na less sedating, kaya nakadepende sa need ang pagpili. As you can see in this table, here are the list of our first generation and second generation. Again, yung first generation natin ay nakakaantok, and yung second generation natin are less sedative. So next we have effect of histamine. So ano yung 3 effect ng histamines? Meron tayong ASA. Ayan, ASA. Sorry. Yan. Effect of antihistamines. Antihistamines have 3 major effects. Antihistaminic, obviously, sedative, previously mentioned, and anticholinergic. Tatlong main effect ng antihistamines that we mentioned above. Ang antihistaminic ay nagbablock ng allergy symptoms, sedative ay nakakadulat ng antok, and anticholinergic ay nagpapadry ng mucus. Combination ito ng benefits at side effects. So, yun nga, meron pa rin mga side effects ng ating mga gamot, kahit pasabihin natin na mas nakakabuti ito sa natin, but there's always the worry of overdosing and misuse. Effect of antihistamines. Ayan, just expanded version of the previous slide. Antihistaminic activity blocks the increased vascular permeability, pruritus, and bronchial smooth muscle constriction caused by histamine. Basta magkalaban lagi si histamine tsaka si antihistamine. It's in the name itself. Sedative. The sedative effect of antihistamine is thought to be caused by penetration of the agents into the brain, or inhibition of histamine and methyltransferase and blockage of central histaminic receptor occurs. And finally, anticholinergic. The anticholinergic effect produces considerable upper airway drying effects seen with cholinergic blockade may occur, including CNS effects of stimulation, anxiety, and nervousness, and peripheral effects of dilated pupils, blurred vision, and urinary retention and constipation. So, in layman's term, ang sedative effect ay dahil pumapasok ang drug sa brain. Ang sedative effect ay dahil pumapasok ang drug sa brain, binablock nito ang central histamine activity, kaya nagiging sleepy ang patient. Ito ang dahilan kung bakit may drowsiness, kaya dapat iwasan ang pagdadrive if you're under sedative drug prescription, ganun. So, and antihistaminic effect ay nakakabawas ng inflammation at itching. Anticholinergic naman, may effect siya na nagpapadry ng ating airways, pero may side effects tulad ng blurred vision at constipation. Pwede rin mag-cause ng nervousness, kaya kailangan gamitin pa rin ang mga ito with caution. Then structure activity relationship. So ito yung mga structure ng ating example antihistamines. And the presence of ring, ayan yung mga ring dyan, mukhang piatos dyan. The presence of ring structures and other substitution on the structure makes older antihistamines lipophilic. Lipophilic, ibig sabihin they can pass through barriers such as the ating blood-brain barrier, and yun. The classic first-generation antihistamines readily penetrate into the CNS and produce the effect of sedation and drowsiness. Newer non-sedating agents such as uh, ter- just go terfenadine do not readily cross the blood-brain barrier and therefore do not block the H1 receptors. So, ang structure ng drug, this does not go only for antihistamines. All drugs ay nakaka-effect sa function nila. Ang older antihistamines ay lipophilic kaya pumapasok sa brain, kaya mas nakakaantok sila. Newer drugs ay hindi masyadong pumapasok sa brain kaya less sedating sila. Use with colds. Ayan. Beneficial effect of antihistamine use with a cold is the drying of upper airway secretion, which lessens the rhinitis and accompanying sneezing. In allergic rhinitis, there's no question talaga that histamine causes much of the inflammatory response. This is what we're parang regulating. And the newer long-acting agents are particularly helpful with this condition. Blockade of H1 receptor prevents the histamine contribution, to the symptoms of nasal itching, congestion, sneezing, rhinorrhea, and ocular irritation. Allergic decongestants are useful for nasal clearing, but rebound congestion still occur. Diba na-mention na natin yung rebound congestion about being a side effect of parang overdosing. Ayan. Ang antihistamines ay nakakatulong sa sipon dahil pinapatuyo ang mucus, nakakabawas ito ng sneezing at runny nose. Effective din sila sa allergic rhinitis. So yung mga allergic rhinitis dyan, pwede silang i-combine with decongestants pero dapat aware sa possible side effects. Like yung ating ano yung side effect natin? Anyone from the class? Joke lang, recording lang pala to. Ayun, next, treatment of seasonal allergic rhinitis. Ayan, agents such as loratadine, fexofenadine, and cetirizine are indicated for use in seasonal allergic rhinitis and chronic urticaria. They are intended to relieve symptoms of sneezing, rhinorrhea, itchy nose, palate and throat, itchy, watery eyes, and pruritus. Other use of antihistamines include the treatment of symptoms seen in motion sickness, control of nausea. And so here we have a table. Having the categories of agents used in treating seasonal allergic rhinitis. -15. So, category, we have H1 receptor. Example nito, H1 receptor antagonist, let's say. Example nito yung favorite natin na cetirizine. Yan, well known yan. Corticosteroids being budesonide and cicalsonide. We have mediator antagonists like cromolyn sodium, anticholinergics like ipratropium bromide, vasoconstrictors such as pseudoephedrine, and specific immunotherapy like our standardized extracts. So, gamit ang specific antihistamines para sa allergies, nakakatulong sila sa symptoms tulad ng itchy eyes, runny nose. Effective din sila sa seasonal allergies. May iba rin gamit tulad ng motion sickness at mga nausea, ganun. Kaya versatile ang mga antihistamines. So, May we have the next presenter to present our next segment of this topic. Thank you.
So for expectorants, these are defined as agents that facilitate removal of mucus from the lower respiratory tract. Tinutulungan ng expectorants na ilabas ng patient ang mucus na nasa loob ng airway nila. We have two types of expectorants. First is the mucolytic expectorants. These are agents that facilitate removal of mucus by a lysing or mucolytic action. Sinisira nito yung structure ng mismong mucus by breaking chemical bonds inside it para maging watery ito at mas madaling iubo palabas. Second is stimulant expectorants, which are agents that increase the production and the clearance of mucus secretions in the respiratory tract. So the main focus of this is to increase water production in the airways para maging madulas at mas mabilis din na maiubo palabas ang mucus. They reduce adhesiveness and surface tension of mucus and increase mucokinesis, which is the movement and clearance of the secretion. Now, there is a bit of gray area when it comes to how well these drugs actually work. This medical community often debates their efficacy because it is hard to objectively measure kung gaano ba kadali umubo or huminga ang isang patient. According to the study of Petty et al., iodinated glycerol or the organidine is effective for chronic bronchitis, na kung saan nakita sa result ng study nila na may improvement sa pag-ubo, chest discomfort at paglabas ng mucus ng patient. There is also a reduction on the duration of acute flare-ups in exacerbation that enhance mucus clearance, improves airflow, and reduces infection risk. On the other hand, the study of Rubin et al. Stated that iodinated glycerol or the organidine has no change in lung function or sputum in patients with chronic bronchitis because, according to them, it is designed to be a stimulant expectorant na kung saan it is expected na gawin nitong mas watery ang secretions. Pero according to them, nakita na hindi nito kayang baguhin ang viscosity or kung gaano kalapot at elasticity ng mucus sa mga patient na may chronic bronchitis na kung saan hindi sapat ang organidine para labanan ang thick mucus na dulot ng sakit. So for the mode of action, stimulant expectorants are thought to work by various means depending on the agent. The mechanisms include the following. First is vagal gastric reflex stimulation, irritating the stomach to trigger secretory gland activity. Second, absorption into respiratory glands to increase mucus production directly. Lastly, topical stimulation with inhaled volatile agents. There's this hydration fact which states that mucus incorporates water as it is produced. Drinking plain water or non-diuretic liquids helps preserve normal mucus viscosity and clearance. Ang water ang nagkokontrol ng lapot, nagpapadulas at tumutulong para madaling mailabas ang mucus. That's why water is important. So this table shows partial list of expectorant agents. To better understand, let's go to the next slide. First, we have iodine products. It is oldest agents used in asthma or bronchitis by increasing mucus hydration, making secretions less viscous and easier to clear. It has a direct mucolytic effect, making the secretion more watery, and stimulation of submucosal glands for lower viscosity secretions. There is a mild irritation of mucosa that triggers sudden increase in secretion. Could result to increase fluid in mucus, decrease viscosity, and mas madaling ilabas ang mucus. Hindi sila commonly used ngayon because they can cause hypersensitivity reactions or pulmonary edema, kaya mas preferred na ang modern mucolytics at bronchodilators. Second is we have guaifenesin. Inhalation use acts as emollient. Pinapamoist niya ang lining ng airways na kung saan nababawasan ang irritation at dryness, and it acts as lubricant of respiratory tract, which can result for more comfortable breathing, less irritation-triggered cough. High doses increase bronchial secretions, and if high dose is used, there is a stimulation of the bronchial glands. Oral ingestion reduces mucus adhesiveness and surface tension, meaning there is an increased fluid in the mucus, and it shows na kaya niyang dagdagan ang hydration of mucus, which can result to improve clearance of mucus from airways, and it is FDA approved as safe and effective, meaning it is proven effective as an expectorant. In short, guaifenesin does not directly break mucus like mucolytics. Instead, it adds water, and it has hydration effect, reduces stickiness or viscosity of the mucus, and it helps natural clearing mechanisms. Second, we have topical agents. They are historically popular as vaporizers because of their scent. These agents may still be found in use, but efficacy as expectorant has not been shown. It is not advisable to use with young or old because of burn risk of vaporizer. Some research also shown that bland aerosols or salines increases sputum volume via reflex irritation of the bronchi. If this reflex is activated, na-stimulate ang mucus glands and mass watery secretions or the sputum ang naproproduce. In short, these agents are not true expectorants, but when inhaled from the skin or vapor, they can help relieve congestion and assist mucus clearance indirectly. Lastly, we have parasympathomimetics or the cholinergic agents that mimic parasympathetic activity. These agents stimulate mucus gland secretion, which can result in increased watery secretions in airways. That makes mucus less thick, but the effect on other muscarinic receptors is too diffuse for practical use as expectorant. For example, we have this polycarpine drug that is not considered as expectorant due to non-specific action, meaning hindi lang sa lungs ang inaapektuhan nito, kundi pati na rin sa other organ. Mas mataas pa ang naidudulot nitong side effect gaya ng bradycardia, increased salivation and diarrhea kumpara sa benefit na naibibigay niya. Kaya hindi ito ginagamit as expectorant and it is limited to use. It increases respiratory secretions via medullary stimulation. It stimulates the respiratory centers that trigger increased mucus secretion, but stimulation of CNS is hazardous because they can cause overstimulation, tremors, seizures, kaya it is not safe for expectorant use and it is avoided clinically.
So, good afternoon everyone. Today I will be discussing cough suppressants, also known as antitussives. So, cough suppressants, also known as antitussives, are very useful for the treatment of non-productive, irritating, dry, and hacking cough. So, how does these cough suppressants work? So, nagwo-work sila by acting on the cough reflex, often targeting the brain's cough center para ma-decrease yung urge natin to cough. So, itong mga cough suppressants, available sila in various form, including syrups, tablets, and are available both over-the-counter and by prescription. Before diving further sa mga types ng cough suppressants, it is very important na maintindihan muna natin kung ano yung coughing. So, as an artist students, dapat alam natin na yung coughing is a protective reflex kung saan tinutulungan nito na ma-expel natin yung mga irritants like dust, mucus, and foreign particles. However, kapag yung cough natin nagiging dry, persistent, and non-productive siya, magiging uncomfortable siya, pwedeng makadisrupt ng sleep, and even irritate the airway further. And dito na lumalabas yung cough suppressant. So, ulitin ko lang kung paano nagwo-work ang cough suppressants. So, cough suppressants act by depressing the cough center in the medulla or by interrupting the cough reflex. So, some agents act centrally, meaning they reduce the brain sensitivity to cough triggers, while others nag-a-act siya peripherally, targeting receptors in the respiratory tract. So, ulitin ko lang kung paano nagwo-work ang cough suppressants. So, cough suppressants act by depressing the cough center in the medulla or by interrupting the cough reflex. So, some agents act centrally, meaning they reduce the brain sensitivity to cough triggers, while others nag-a-act siya peripherally, targeting receptors in the respiratory tract. So, we have some examples here. Opioid antitussives like codeine and hydrocodone act centrally by suppressing the cough reflex by acting directly sa central nervous system. On the other hand, si benzonatate naman, nag-a-act siya peripherally by acting directly sa stretch receptors ng lungs and airways. So, itong dalawa na to, i-discuss pa natin siya further later sa mga types of suppressants. So, we have two types of cough suppressant. Number 1, si narcotic antitussives, and number 2, si non-narcotic antitussives. So, let's go to narcotic antitussives. So, it states here that narcotic antitussives exert powerful depressant effects on the medullary centers, including the carbon dioxide chemoreceptors, and are often used for this as cough suppressants. So, ito kasing narcotic antitussives, nagko-contain sila ng opioid-derived substances such as itong common agents, codeine and hydrocodone. Ito yung pinag-usapan natin kanina, na nag-a-act sila centrally, strongly suppressing coughing, but still, they can cause side effects like drowsiness and have a risk of dependence. So, pag-usapan naman natin ngayon yung two common agents ng narcotic antitussive, which is si codeine and si hydrocodone. It states here that codeine is commonly used as both a mild analgesic and cough suppressant. So, si codeine, it has been used for many years and is considered as a standard reference for antitussive effectiveness. So, napag-usapan naman na natin kanina kung paano nag-a-act ang codeine, which is, they are directly acting on the cough center in the medulla of the brain, suppressing the cough reflex. It also binds to opioid receptors, which contribute to both its cough-suppressing and pain-relieving effects. Si hydrocodone naman, sabi dito, used as both a powerful cough suppressant and a moderate to severe pain reliever. So, si hydrocodone, very effective siya, especially for severe coughs. Like codeine, it acts on the medullary cough center, but it has a more potent depressant effect, and it binds strongly to opioid receptors too, producing both antitussive and analgesic effects. However, this hydrocodone has side effects. So, the side effects are drowsiness, dizziness, constipation, and respiratory depression. Next, punta naman tayo sa second type ng cough suppressant. So, si non-narcotic antitussive is one of the most widely used over-the-counter cough suppressants. So, itong mga non-narcotic antitussives are cough suppressants that do not contain opioids, such as dextromethorphan. They also reduce the cough reflex but generally have fewer side effects and a lower risk of addiction compared sa narcotic options. Now, let's talk about dextromethorphan. Commonly, tinatawag siyang DM, and it is widely used over-the-counter cough suppressant. Effective ito and safer than narcotic antitussives. So, ang main purpose ng dextromethorphan is to reduce the urge to cough, not to treat the underlying cause of the illness. So, nagwo-work to Same sa codeine and hydrocone by acting directly sa cuff center sa medulla of the brain. Ang ginagawa naman nito, nire-raise niya yung cuff threshold. This means stronger stimulation is needed to trigger a cough. As a result, yung frequency and intensity of coughing decrease. So instead of stopping the lungs from producing mucus, simply nire-reduce niya yung brain's response to irritation signals. And mas effective ito sa dry irritating coughs and help reduce how often a person coughs. However, dapat tandaan natin na hindi siya ginagamit sa mga productive coughs because coughing is needed to clear mucus from the lungs. So we have another example of non-narcotic here, si benzonatate. So benzonatate is a non-narcotic chemically related to local anesthetic tetraquine and anesthetizes stretch receptors in the lungs and pleura. This inhibits the cough reflex at its source. So ito, wala siyang inhibitory effect sa CNS. Ang ibig sabihin lang niyan, si benzonatate is a non-opioid cough suppressant na very unique because nagwo-work siya outside the brain, unlike most other antitussives. It is commonly prescribed for dry irritating coughs, especially when parents cannot tolerate opioid or centrally acting drugs. Sa mechanism of action nito, si benzonate nagwo-work siya acting peripherally, meaning directly sa respiratory tract, rather sa brain. So, ang ginagawa nito, ninanab niya yung mga stretch receptors located sa lungs, sa bronchi, or sa pleura. Ngayon, yung mga receptors kasi na to, normally, nagsisend sila ng signals sa brain para ma-trigger yung coughing kapag nai-irritate sila. However, kapag ginamit mo kasi si benzonatate, linablock niya yung mga signals na yun, causing the cough reflex to be reduced at its source. Sabi din dito, yung effect begins in 15 to 20 minutes and naglalast siya 3 to 8 hours. So we have another example here, diphenhydramine. So si diphenhydramine, also called as Benadryl, is primarily an antihistamine. Kaso, kaya niya ring isuppress ang cough. So si diphenhydramine, available siya as syrup, in liquid form, and in combination with other products, and may be an effective cough suppressant. Nagiging more common product na rin siya because of increased abuse of dextromethorphan. So si diphenhydramine, nagwo-work siya by reducing airway irritation, drying secretions, and mildly depressing the cough center. Especially useful siya for cough caused by allergies or postnasal drip, and is commonly used at night because nagkakos siya ng drowsiness, so parang mas mabilis siyang gamitin sa gabi kasi parang pag na-take mo na siya, like matutulog ka na lang. Parang ganun yung effect niya. So we also have here the narcotic antitussives, doses and effects. So we have here si codeine and hydrocone, which is yung two common agents ng narcotic antitussives. So some cough suppressants, particularly opioid antitussives, include codeine and hydrocone. For codeine, the effects depend sa dose. So at doses below 15 milligrams, it does not provide pain relief. However, kapag yung range niya is 10 to 20 milligrams, effective siya as a cough suppressant. Kapag naman nag-exceed sa 30 milligrams, it begins to produce analgesic or pain relieving effects. On the other hand naman, si hydrocone, kaya niya mag-produce ng effective cough suppressant effect at much lower dose, approximately 5 milligrams. Pinapakita lang nito na si hydrocone is stronger than codeine in terms of antitussive actions. So we have here in box 15.1 yung mga list ng common antitussive agents or yung summary ng mga napag-usapan nating antitussive agents, many of which are used in cold compounds. So both si dextromethorphan and si codeine are available in over-the-counter preparations. These two agents are considered to be preferred cough suppressants based na rin sa safety and efficacy nila. Yung need for prescription antitussive is very unusual, especially sa mga cold, due to availability of OTC preparations. Summary of use of cough suppressants. Cough suppressants are most useful for dry non-productive coughs, irritating or hacking coughs, and coughs that interfere with the sleep or daily activities. Itong mga cough suppressant na to, hindi dapat sila ginagamit kapag yung cough is productive, meaning nagproproduce siya ng mucus, and yung body needs to clear secretions from the lungs such as in conditions like chronic bronchitis or cystic fibrosis. For the last part of this cough suppressant, we can see here some important considerations. So yung combination ng expectorant and antitussive in cold medication is considered questionable. This is because yung actions ng expectorant and antitussive oppose each other. So antitussive suppresses the cough reflex, while yung expectorants naman ini-increase yung mucus production to be clear from the airways. So yung isang drug, ini-stop niya yung coughing, while the other is encouraging it. Because of this contradiction, using both together may not be effective, especially sa mga simple or uncomplicated colds. We also have here another example of questionable combination, which is antihistamine and expectorant. Si antihistamine kasi, drinadry niya yung secretions, while si expectorants, pinopromote niya yung mucus production. Again, these effects opposes each other, making the rationale unclear. So the best thing to do, especially for dry irritating cough, is use single-entity cough suppressants such as dextromethorphan or yung ibang napag-usapan nating cough suppressants. Ang highlight kasi dito is they target yung symptoms more directly without conflicting actions. So for the next topic po, it will be discussed by Ms. Saboya. Thank you po.
So we're down to the last two topics of this chapter. Without further ado, let's discuss cold compounds. Cold remedies may contain single or multiple drug classes. Some medications contain only one active ingredient, while others combine several drugs. This is done to treat multiple symptoms at the same time, such as cough, congestion, and runny nose. Common combinations include adrenergic or sympathomimetic, antihistamine, expectorant, and antitussive. These four classes are the main categories used in cold treatment. Each one targets different symptoms. For adrenergic, it reduces nasal swelling. Antihistamine reduces allergic symptoms. Expectorant loosen mucus, and antitussive suppress cough. These combinations target multiple symptoms at once. This is helpful for convenience, but not all patients need all components. Taking unnecessary drugs can increase side effects without added benefit. Now, these are the example of cold compounds. Nasabi ko kanina that there is single ingredients and multi-ingredients for cold compounds. Example for single ingredients are Sudafed tablet, Neosynephrine, Claritin 24-hour allergy, Robitussin, and Vicks 44 cough relief. And for multiple drug ingredient cold compounds are the rest. Now, there are important considerations in cold compounds. Ingredients may vary within the same brand. A brand name does not guarantee the same composition, We should always check active ingredients, not just the product name. Some liquids contain high alcohol content. Alcohol is used as a solvent to dissolve ingredients and improve taste. Example of this is Nyquil that contains 25% alcohol. This high alcohol content can contribute to sedation and CNS depression, especially when combined with other sedating drugs. Formulations change frequently. Pharmaceutical companies regularly update products, so healthcare providers must stay updated and verify contents before recommending use. Now for OTC availability and risk. Many cold compounds are over the counter, meaning patients can buy these drugs without a prescription, making them widely accessible. But there are risks of OTC available cold compounds. First is overdose. Patients may take multiple products unknowingly containing the same drug, leading to toxic effect. Drug duplication occurs when different products contain the same class or ingredients, increasing the dose unintentionally, and lastly, abuse. OTC drug may contain lower doses but same classes. Now for treating a cold, there is no cure for common cold. The common cold is caused by viruses, example rhinovirus, and medication cannot eliminate the virus. Treatment focuses on symptom relief only. Drugs only relieves discomfort such as congestion or cough, but do not shorten the illness significantly. For basic management, fluid or water and rest are recommended. Fluids help thin mucus, making it easier to clear. Rest supports immune system in fighting infection, and the use of symptom-based drug. Now for the key principle of combination therapy. Most compounds use the four major drug classes: the sympathomimetic, antihistamine, expectorants, and antitussive. These four classes form the foundation of cold treatment. Understanding them allows healthcare providers to evaluate any medication. By identifying which class of drug belongs to, you can determine what symptoms to treat, whether it is needed or whether it overlaps with other medication. These drug classes also have side effects. Let's start with sympathomimetic. It causes tremor, tachycardia, increasing blood pressure. This occurs because decongestance stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, causing vasoconstriction not only in the nose but also systematically. It also causes risk of rebound congestion. With prolonged use, especially nasal spray, blood vessels become dependent on the drug. When stopped, they dilate, excessively worsening congestion. Next is antihistamine. It causes drowsiness and dry secretion. These effects are due to anticholinergic properties, which reduce secretions and depress the central nervous system. Antihistamine is best used at night because drowsiness can interfere with daytime activities. Nighttime use is safer and more beneficial. Next is expectorants. Effectiveness may be limited. Nasabi sa book na many expectorants may not significantly improve mucus clearance in colds. Water and fluids are considered as best natural expectorants because fluids naturally hydrate and thin mucus, making it easier to cough out. When we use expectorants, we should avoid caffeine because it causes dehydration, and also alcohol because it dries secretion and depresses CNS. Last is antitussive. It is used for dry and non-productive cough. Dry cough is non-productive and irritating, so suppressing it improves comfort. And we should not use if cough is productive because because coughing is necessary to remove mucus and secretion. Suppressing it can lead to mucus buildup and infection. Now, there are problems with combination drugs. It may include unnecessary medication. A patient may only need one drug, but combination products expose them to additional drug unnecessarily, and it limits flexibility. It cannot adjust individual drug use. Example, cannot separate daytime versus nighttime needs. So single ingredient drugs may be better. Now for the respiratory care assessment of cold and cough agent. Respiratory care assessment of cold and cough agents is directed primarily at cardiac and pulmonary side effects. Many of the agents discussed are over-the-counter preparations, so education of the patient is imperative. So before treatment, determine if the patient is febrile. If so, this is a distinguishing feature of flu versus a cold. Why? Because fever is an important clinical sign because it helps differentiate between a common cold and influenza or flu. Common cold is usually mild, it rarely has fever, and flu often presents with fever, body aches, and systemic symptoms. This distinction is important because flu may require more aggressive management or medical evaluation, and cold medication alone may not be sufficient. We should measure body temperature, assess accompanying symptoms like fatigue or muscle pain. This ensures the patient is receiving the appropriate treatment, not just symptom relief for the wrong condition. Next is we should monitor vital signs, including blood pressure, because cold and cough agents can easily affect changes in cardiovascular status. Many cold medications, especially decongestants or the sympathomimetics, stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. This can cause increase in blood pressure, increase in heart rate or tachycardia, and palpitation. These effects are dangerous in patients with cardiovascular disease such as hypertension and heart disease. We should check the baseline vital signs before giving the medication, reassess after administration, and watch for abnormal increases. Monitoring helps prevent serious complications like hypertensive crisis or cardiac stress. Next, ensure the patient is not in need of transportation. Some agents may cause drowsiness. Certain cold medications, especially antihistamine and antitussive, has sedative effects. They act on the central nervous system, causing drowsiness, slowed reaction time, and impaired alertness. This creates safety risks if the patient needs to drive, operate machinery, and perform tasks requiring focus. We should ask the patient about planned activities and advise avoiding driving after taking sedating medications. This prevents accidents and injury due to impaired alertness. And if selecting a combination agent, determine what is needed to relieve the symptoms. Combination agents frequently include agents that are not needed. Now, during treatment, we should monitor vital signs and symptom changes. Observe for improvement or adverse effects such as increased heart rate or sedation. We should always remember that drugs treat symptoms only. Lacks of improvement may indicate the need for further evaluation. It is for short-term use only. These medications are not intended for prolonged use because prolonged use of long-term use increases risk of toxicity, dependence, and rebound effect. Now for the general contraindication, decongestants increase blood pressure and heart rate. Dangerous in patients with hypertension or heart disease. That's why we need to use it cautiously in cardiac patients. So for anti-intussive, we should avoid unproductive cough because it prevents clearance or secretion, increasing infected risk. Now for the key reminders, we should always check drug ingredients to prevent duplication and overdose. Avoid duplicate medication. Multiple drugs may contain the same active ingredients. We should monitor cardiovascular effects and we should educate patients on proper use because many are OTC, so patient knowledge is essential for safe use. So that ends our presentation on cold and cough agent.